Hey guys, Attorney Marc Victor here with the Attorneys for Freedom Law Firm. And I wanted to cut this video today to just talk a little bit about these rare breed triggers, these FRT triggers, because we're getting a lot of inquiries about them. We don't really have solid answers at the moment, but there are a few things that I think we can kick around and talk about. And there are some things I think you should be considering in the event you have one of these triggers or you're thinking of purchasing one of these triggers. First of all, I want to say I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not representing anybody on either side of this dispute right now. I'm just giving you my own opinion. I'm also not a technical person. I'm a criminal defense lawyer, so I can't tell you about the specifics of the technical issues in terms of how this trigger works. What I can tell you is, look, here's generally how things work. We're talking about the difference between a semi-automatic weapon and an automatic weapon. What's the general difference between the two? Well, semi-automatic generally means when you pull the trigger, one round is expelled. You got to pull the trigger a second time to get a second round to be expelled. Automatic weapons are when you can pull the trigger one time and maybe hold the trigger and a whole bunch of rounds get expelled. That's an automatic weapon. Why do we care about the difference? Well, because there are different legal rules. You can generally have a semi-automatic weapon without jumping through a whole bunch of other hoops. So if you have an automatic weapon and you haven't jumped through the hoops to have an automatic weapon, you may have a legal problem. And this is something we want to avoid. So the FRT trigger, which stands for Forced Reset Trigger, that Rare Breed is making, is a device that is dropped into an AR-15. When I was in the Marine Corps, we called this the M16, but the civilian version is the AR-15, which is generally a semi-automatic weapon. So pull the trigger once, one round is expelled. Well, this device, the trigger is actually being reset more than once, and more than one round is coming out. But with a carefully placed trigger finger, the person only needs to keep a certain amount of pressure on the trigger, allowing it to reset and refire again. So the question is this an automatic or a semi-automatic? Well, right now, we don't know the legal answer. But I want to tell you, like most things in the law, it's not so clear. And the thing that's important to remember is you don't get to make this decision. Neither do I. The courts are going to make this decision. ATF has decided that this particular trigger is an automatic weapon. So when you put it into the AR-15, you now have an automatic weapon, even though the trigger is being reset each time to expel a round. I don't know how this is going to shake out. But I do want to tell you that the definitions aren't quite as clear as I just laid out. Because in these definitions, the same is true for even the definition of what a firearm is. There's some other language in there that talks about whether the instrument can be reasonably or readily converted into something. So that's the question here. Is this readily capable of being restored to an automatic weapon, whatever that means, by maybe modifying this trigger? If so, then it could be considered an automatic weapon legally. I don't know how this is going to come out, but what I want you to understand is that you are definitely taking a risk right now if you have one of these rare breed triggers or you're considering purchasing one of these rare breed triggers. You'll be taking a risk. Now, I do like the idea that Rare Breed has gone to court to try to get an answer from a federal judge. As I understand things so far, there's been an injunction, which is a request to the judge to say, hey, judge, stop them from enforcing anything here because we haven't done anything wrong. The judge has, in essence, said, not at this point. I want to have a full hearing to look at it. So we don't know how this is going to come out. But what's the worst case scenario here for you? What should you be concerned about? Well, if you have one of these triggers, ATF could come calling. Of course, they have ways of getting lists. They have ways of figuring out who bought what, and they could come after you. They could actually arrest you and bring you into custody, and an assistant United States attorney could opt to bring a charge against you. Now, you might win, but what does win really mean if you're charged with a criminal offense? I can tell you as a criminal defense lawyer, who's been representing people in federal court for almost 30 years, you won't feel like you won if you get charged, no matter how it comes out. So what I'm saying is, don't fight this issue from behind a criminal indictment in a federal court. I don't think that's the way to do it. The most cautious thing for you to do right now is to not have one of these triggers in your possession. Now, granted, it may shake out where these are perfectly legal, and so there's no problem. So what we're really talking about here is a risk calculation. It's all about how much risk do you want to take. Now, I suggest with your freedom, you don't take very much risk. I think you should be conservative when it comes down to things that could deprive you of your freedom, or at least put a federal felony conviction on your record. Did you know if you get any felony conviction on your record in federal court right now, you're going to lose your gun rights forever? That's right. You're going to become a prohibited possessor for the rest of your life. Well, there is a mechanism to restore your right to keep and bear arms. It has been unfunded, and the state of the law right now is that if you got a federal felony on your record, you're a prohibited possessor for the rest of your life. So what are you risking here? You're risking all of your rights to keep and bear arms. You're risking your very freedom. You're risking convictions on your record and a whole bunch of money paid to criminal defense lawyers, not to mention all the aggravation and stress if you're arrested and charged. So therefore, my recommendation to you is stay clear of this fight right now. My personal opinion here, after looking at the law, and I have looked at the law and I have an understanding of the trigger. I've reviewed the video by Mr. Maxwell, who is general counsel to rare breed triggers. I've also spoken with ATF agents on this very issue. I've had some come to my office and I've talked to them about this issue. I've also talked to some dealers who are selling the rare breed trigger. I have a pretty good understanding of what it is and what the law says. And if I was the judge, I would find that this is not an automatic weapon. This does not convert a AR-15 into an automatic weapon, because indeed the trigger is reset each time for each round. But I'm not deciding. Judges are deciding, and I'm not risking my freedom, and I don't think you should risk your freedom on whatever a judge decides, because it's certainly conceivable that a court may go the other way on this issue, as they have on so many other issues in the past. So there it is. That's my advice. If you have one of these triggers, probably it shouldn't be in your possession. If you're thinking of buying one of these triggers, I think you should think not and pass on that, at least until this issue shakes out. Always better to fight as a plaintiff in a civil case than a defendant in a criminal case. Okay, I'm just considering risk management for you. Play it safe. If you have questions about this issue or any issue regarding criminal defense or constitutional law, I think it makes sense for you to contact me. No problem. I'm easy to get a hold of. You can always get a hold of me through my law firm website, which is just attorneysforfreedom.com. Or you can email me directly. It's just Marc, M-A-R-C, @attorneysforfreedom.com. Thanks for listening.